Nice easy question to start you off, Janusz Michallik, regarding Harry Kane. Does a move to Bayern Munich for him make sense?
Well, I think to me, in general, it would make sense. It would make sense. I mean, if you're talking about Bayern Munich and we talk about Harry Kane and what he's done in the Premier League, and perhaps he still wants to stay there, we don't know that for a fact, right? Everybody talks about Alan Shearer's record, 260 goals. Harry Kane's done 213, and maybe that's important to him. It could be. I think the most important part would be a part of a massive club, a club that guarantees you trophies, and I think that should be important. And I believe it is important to Harry Kane. So I think Harry Kane moving to Bayern Munich would single-handedly change the way I perceive Bayern Munich for next season, because we all know that they've had their issues at this past season, barely winning the Bundesliga, obviously bowing out of Champions League, all the issues they've had with management, now Rummenigge coming back into the fold, all kinds of changes in the background. And as I've said, I think he could, I don't know how many years he would stay at Bayern Munich for me to say that he would write history, but he could write his own history, because this is a club that historically has got some of the, I could argue the best number nines in the history of this game, right? I think, Real Madrid could come close, and believe me, I didn't do research on that. But, I've mentioned Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, a great player. If you look at, Gerd Müller, you can Jurgen Klinsmann, you can look at Miro Klose, Robert Lewandowski, Mandzukic, and Mario Gomez, and even as far as Giovanni Elber. I mean, this is a club that's made for number nines, and so I think if Harry Kane would choose to go to Bayern Munich, they immediately become obviously not only Bundesliga favorites, but one of the favorites in the Champions League. Whereas I don't think we were saying that, or at the moment we're not saying that, because not only they need an anchor that they've always had, but that anchor makes everybody else around them better. Just like the players that I've mentioned before, even with Lewandowski or Miro Klose, if you think of Arjen Robben, if you think of Ribéry, right? These players had purpose, not just for themselves, because they were able to fend for themselves, Mark. But here I look at somebody like Leroy Sané. I look at somebody like Serge Gnabry. I look at somebody like Coman. I look at somebody like Joshua Kimmich, who's had a pretty bad season for himself. I look at somebody like Thomas Muller, who probably cried a little when Robert Lewandowski left, because he didn't know who to service, and was asked to really do a job by himself at number 9. So I think you get somebody like Harry Kane, it changes the perception of Bayern Munich immediately.
What would it say about the Bundesliga if that division, that league, that country was able to attract a world-class player from the English Premier League?
Well, first and foremost, I think Bundesliga has in the past attracted, the best in the world, I mean, look at Lewandowski, who's left there for.
But from the English Premier League, Janusz, they talk about this being the best league in the world. It might be the best marketed league in the world, but La Liga, Bundesliga, others would argue it's not the best league in the world. But to take a top player from the English Premier League, what would that tell us about?
Yeah, maybe we go back to Kevin Keegan and Hamburg. He'd be at that level. Of course, it would be a massive positive for him to pick the club. I mean, it's a different situation for him as well. I think that's why Bayern sees this as an opportunity. Now, the opening bid was 70 million. This is just Bayern because they're one of the best in the world. This is not that they're coming low for him. They just want to find out. Say, here, we want it. We're serious. This is an official offer. We know that offer is not going to be enough, but Daniel Levy and Harry Kane, let us know if you're really serious about this move, because as we know it, I just don't think Daniel Levy will sell to anybody in the Premier League, because he would look bad for his supporters and for him as well. And then now we sort of know that Real Madrid are no longer interested. This is probably the only other option that makes sense for Harry Kane outside of the Premier League. So certainly, I think Bundesliga would absolutely benefit from that, because they are getting a player who just scored 30 Premier League goals in a bad season for Tottenham Spurs. Again, if you look at his 30 goals and Erling Haaland's 36, that's on par for me.
Where would it put Bayern as far as favourites for next season's Champions League is concerned if they get Harry Kane?
Well, as I've mentioned, amongst the favorites right away. I mean, you have a player, finally the player that they craved since Robert Lewandowski left, another player where there are zero questions about his ability to score goals. I think he continued to do that no matter where he goes. He's that good. He's one of the best strikers in the world right now. Top three, no questions about it. Wherever you want to put him. So there's zero questions. I've mentioned some of the players that underperform. With him as that anchor, as I've said, I think they all become better. Manuel Neuer will be back. I don't know what that means because they're going to have a big fight. Fight. I shouldn't say that at Bayern Munich, but fight for number one with Sommer if they both stay. So as I said, Kimmich is going to be better. Goretzka, I think, is going to benefit from that. Konrad Leimer is coming over, as we've mentioned. So that's another very, very strong player in the center of that midfield, or in midfield in general. So immediately, Bayern Munich are one of the favorites for me to win the Bundesliga if Harry Kane signs.
What is better for Spurs? Taking the money now, if they get near to 100, if Bayern and Spurs can agree a deal that's maybe 100 with add-ons and gives them the money now for a player they're going to lose for nothing next summer, or keep him for 12 more months if that's what both party wants, and then he goes next summer, but you've got that one more season with Harry Kane. What is better for Tottenham Hotspur right now?
Either or. There's no better option. One is not better than the other, for a simple fact that I think Daniel Levy might understand now and be resigned to the fact that he knows that ultimately, if Harry Kane stays, I think ultimately in the eyes of his supporters, he's going to look good with that. But he also has to look at it in a different way, right? It depends what money means to you, because he may be saying to himself, I'd rather keep him because I need to get Spurs back in the Champions League, because the money you get from being back in the Champions League is similar, isn't it? I mean, again, I didn't do financial research, but obviously getting back there and staying there. But the first step is, they're out of the most important competition, where just, not that long ago, here's the Spurs team that was second in the Premier League. It was the Spurs team that lost in the final of the Champions League. And I think he understands that even if he was to sell Harry Kane for 80, 90, 100 million pounds, who is he going to get that's going to give him 25 goals minimum, right?
You're not getting anybody for what you sell Harry Kane for to replace Harry
and
Kane.
That's just it. And yes, financially, he's going to lose on the sale, but who knows if, as I've said, that much improved already, if James Maddison coming up on board, the midfield that's healthy with Bissouma, James Maddison, and Rodrigo Bentancur right now, Højbjerg, as we mentioned, Oliver Skipp, who's had a pretty good season himself, at least proven that he's a very good option, even if just off the bench. The front three of Kane, Richarlison, and Son, and others that will come still. This may be without the destruction of the Champions League, right? So this may be, worth to Spurs more than a transfer itself, and I think that's what he's struggling there with, Daniel Levy.
Okay, final question. If you were Harry Kane, this is totally hypothetical. If you were Harry Kane and you had the choice right now, you can go to Bayern Munich this summer, or you can go to Manchester United next summer under freedom of contract. Because, look, Daniel Levy is not going to sell and strengthen Manchester United, as you quite rightly mentioned. So, is it Bayern this summer, or would you go under freedom of contract to Manchester United next summer?
My guess is that he will stay. Because look, as I've said, I think I would never question him going to Bayern Munich. To me, historically, and I hope to everybody, one of the biggest ever. It doesn't matter if it's Bundesliga or not, in a way, right? I mean, he would get what he craves, which is trophy, being in a proper club. So we know that. But I think he's going to go on free because options will open. Remember that, in January, he'll be able to agree to a pre-contract, won't he, right? So again, it's Manchester United. Almost anybody's an option. And I don't think, Harry Kane's been, for the most part, pretty durable player, right? What's he going to be? just a little over 30 or 30, I mean, still at an age where he's going to give you another couple seasons. So, Manchester United may be an option. Who knows? I mean, Chelsea, Real Madrid may open up to that possibility as well, right? Because he's going to be a player that's going to come on a free. So I just think that given the fact that, James Maddison's coming, and maybe there's one or two players that will be coming that at least Harry Kane is aware of, the players that they're working on, he may say, look, I'm a club legend. I'm not leaving. I've been promised to leave. I stayed an extra 2 seasons, right? Because remember, he put in a transfer request the season before this last. He's going to continue to be the legend. He's going to get closer to Alan Shearer, if that at all is important to him. I don't know about that. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Maybe that is or isn't important to him. So I think that he stays.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.